Excellent. Hello. Hi, everybody. We're here with Dr. Alex Iglesias, and uh, we're thankful and blessed to have your perspective and your commentary on the theme of ethics. We decided we're going to talk about ethics and confidentiality and allow for you to expound a little bit on some case examples that come to mind, that come to memory as it relates to instances where confidentiality was threatened or maybe even violated.
Well, when you talk about confidentiality, you're talking about the golden key of a good functioning psychologist. It's the sine qua non for excellence, and it's a serious mistake that cannot be committed. You mentioned something about stellar cases, interesting cases.
Yeah.
I have one for you. This one was an alarming set of circumstances for me. It dealt with the psychological evaluation of a Catholic seminarian who was undergoing training to be ordained a Catholic priest. All the seminarians in the Diocese of Palm Beach undergo a psych evaluation. So this fellow was ordered to be psychologically evaluated, and he came to my office. He was entertaining and mesmerizing, and he succeeded in having me forget or ignore the signature required on the records release form. So when the eval was completed, I asked him to sign, and he shocked me because he said, "No, I'm not going to sign. I'm going to wait until I see what is stated about me in that evaluation." So needless to say, I was upset from a number of angles. From the first angle was because he was hindering and putting obstacles in front of my responsibility. But anyway, I told him that he could deal with the submission of the results to the diocese on his own. All I needed was for him to pay me for my services. Following week he came, he paid in full, and he took the evaluation with him. Well, so that was not the end of it. I got a call from the Department of Professional Regulation saying that I had breached confidentiality, that I had divulged information about the findings in the eval to the bishop and the hierarchy of the Diocese of Palm Beach. Upon looking and reading the results, the investigator immediately deemed that it was a bogus accusation, and he rendered the accusation closed and without conditions. So anyway, that was not it. I got a call. I'm sorry. I received a notice of records being sought for this man by a diocese in upstate New York, and that rang poisonous to me. So I requested that he include, along with the records release form, a notarized signature, and that was the end of it. I never heard back from him. So what would you have done? I had choices.
Yeah.
By the time that this was halfway going, I knew the type of person he was. He was a borderline personality disorder,
Yeah.
and I neglected to take that into account, and I nearly paid the price. Luckily, I had done some good work for the Diocese of Palm Beach, and immediately when the investigator called the bishop, he gave me a stellar recommendation, and that was the end of it. But I had choices. I could have declined to do the evaluation on the basis that I knew he was problematic. I could have paid better attention and obtained the permissions
Right.
from the outset. Anyway, that was one case that I learned a lot from it.
Students would be interested to know what your reaction or your experience was in having to undergo that ordeal.
Well, it's not pleasant. The Department of Professional Regulation that doesn't call you in to share your successes.
Right.
When they call you, you best be ready to hire an attorney if need be. It was traumatic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as I've told students, these instances can really put our license on the line and our livelihood on the line. And so it could certainly be a cause of sleepless nights.
Yes. Would you like to hear another case?
Yeah, I'm interested in the case that we had discussed previously about a situation where you're treating a minor, a teenager, and I think you had mentioned that billing is contingent on you submitting the notes to the insurance provider, but you're also treating a family member, and so notes include information about family members and what the implications are of all of that.
Well, for a case like that, you have to seek the permission from the collateral agent, not the primary but the secondary, who doesn't even realize that he's part of the scenario.
So this would be a situation where the identified patient is a teenager, but you might also be offering treatment to a parent.
That's right, and the notes for the teenager will reflect information about the parent, and you cannot disclose them.
Right. What are you to do if the parent declines?
If the parent declines, then you have to notify the source and either obtain payment through those means, or just recognize that you may not be the next person that they're going to cut out a check for.
Right. I had the thought too that do you edit the notes and submit what's permissible and.
Yes, you can do that, but imagine how arduous of a task that is.
Right.
And then you're tampering with a document and making it sound to your favor.
Right.
That's a hornet's nest.
Right.
Ready to blow up.
What other cases come to mind, and as it relates to this theme of confidentiality, or just in general?
Well, I want to tell you about a case that I had when I was doing a rotation at Lowell, Florida, the women's middle. They have a special name for it when it's middle the danger. But anyway, I was doing the group counseling, and it came time to ask the women to go back to their units, and that gets mobilized when you sign their return slips. So I did that, and I overlooked the fact that I had left a very nice and not inexpensive pen on the desk. Well, when I came home, I noticed that it was gone, and I called the director of psychology who had been there for many years, and she had very little hope, very little optimism that I would retrieve it, because women that are in correctional facilities are not fully human, according to this woman. So morale and ethics are not something that they have even a modicum of. But anyway, I attempted to do something about it, and the next time I was there, I made mention to the women that the pen was not the property of the man. The man is the institution. It was my property, and it had been given to me by a woman who loved me a great deal. Well, on the following meeting, I heard something drop on the outside of the door. It was an envelope that had the pen and a note that said, "We're sorry." Well, based on rules and regulations of the institution, that had to be notified, and they had to judge on it, rule on it. I simply did not mention it to anyone. Did I employ loose morals there? Was that a breach of ethics? I didn't do what the institution demanded that I submitted, and he even helped the institution to locate the person who took the pen. I felt that would have been a breach of morality, when in fact they returned it and they were sorry. What else did I want out of the experience?
It's a situation where the humanity transcends the rules and or guidelines.
Right. But you can also make the error of assuming that you are entitled to manipulate, and that you have such authority that you can transcend the expectations of the institution.
You can use it as a license to break the rules nevertheless.
Yes, you can. The rules there seem to be etched in stone, when in fact they're very loose. I had a situation with a young inmate who was in for a drug offense, and the first interchange that we had was when she said to me that if I dropped my trousers, she would perform oral sex on me right there. Well, I thought about it, and I looked at myself, and I said no. And I said to her, "Thank you very much. It sounds like a marvelous offering, but not in this lifetime. Maybe not in the next one. Perhaps in 3 lifetimes." But she was due a reprimand. But again, I didn't bring it to the attention of the institution, because she had given me a modicum of what she has very little of, which is personal influence. And she felt that she was honoring me, and I saw that, and I was gentle with that,
Right.
but I was firm and stern, and then declined it. Was that a breach of confidentiality?
And and or was it unethical to not report her?
That's right. You're getting the picture, aren't you?
What?
That these things encompass more than just a simple event.
Students I find are, in addition to just being overwhelmed with the massive amounts of codes and rules and regulations, there's just the raw fear that is involved in being in these situations, or being presented with the prospect of a situation like this, where whether a patient invites you to have sex, invites you out on a date, does something to cross a line, and I'm curious to know what your general feedback or advice to them is.
Never date a patient. Never have sex with a patient. Never even entertain the thought of having sex with a patient, because they will see it. And if you jump the gun and have sex with a patient, be ready to never hold a license.
Right.
I had a supervisor at the University of Florida who was a Freudian, and he was training me. He was supervising me, and out of nowhere he said to me, "Iglesias, I noticed that the shutter of your eyes, you keep looking in places where they don't need to be looking." And he noticed that I was looking inadvertently, of course, at the lower limbs of a very beautiful co-ed, and he noticed it, and he said to me, you look very intent, you look very interested, why don't you go ahead and have sex with her?" And I was thrown out of my horse. I couldn't believe he had said that. And he said, "Enjoy it, because..." And then he got up from behind his desk, and he had massive hands, and banged on the surface of the desk. He said, "Because that'll be the last day that you'll set foot in these premises. You will never practice. You will be disposed of."
Right.
And you know what? I have never forgotten that. He added another layer of protection
Right.
against myself, which
Right.
you're not only at the mercy of the patient, but you can also be at the mercy of your unmet needs. So you have no business practicing our craft unless you have command and control of your impulses. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Before we conclude our chat today, was there any other closing thoughts or comments that you wanted to impart on students?
Be very careful how you practice your profession. Always keep in mind that you're working with individuals that are to some extent damaged, and you cannot add further injury to insult. Put yourself in their place, and if you make a mistake, rectify it. Seek the counsel of a colleague, and set out how to rectify it and correct it. You're not going to be perfect, but we want to minimize the nature and the gravity and the frequency of any mistake.
We thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me here.